Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another one of these live streams. Tonight, I'm joined by Keith Biermann from the False Bay Firearm Training Academy. A long-time IPSC shooter. You've got national colors in IPSC, Keith, if I recall
No,
correctly.
only provincial colours.
Provincial.
Unfortunately, there was a little bit of a dispute on the national colours, having been awarded national colours, and then 2 days and 5 hours later withdrawn due to some. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We still got to go for it.
I was about to say politics of sport. It's all
that's exactly fun. It. It's life. Press on.
Exactly, and for those of those tuning in who don't know you personally, haven't met you, haven't actually been to the training academy, and that's mostly people probably up country. Bit of background info. Who are you? How did you get to this and the academy? Like, what's the story there? And pardon my dog, he's going to carry on like this pretty much for most of the stream.
That's life. For me personally, my shooting started many years ago when I was a student. And believe it or not, in res, I used to have my handgun in my cupboard. No safes, no issues, no nothing. We never had issues. My roommate, my next roommate came from Namibia, and the one day he arrives there from Namibia, and I said to him, so what did you bring this time? No, an Uzi, full auto Uzi in his cupboard, whole bunch of 9mm ammo, etc., etc. And that's how it was, and we never had issues. Anyway,
I was about to say the good old days. Literally, that's the good part of the old days. Is that?
This is kind of it. Things have changed, and obviously we're going to have to go with the times. It's not only in South Africa, it's worldwide. It's what it is. From there, I completed my studies. I ended up being called up to one of the Army infantry battalions. I thought, this ain't a good idea. I went across to, because I was in Pretoria at that time studying, I went to the recruitment office. No paperwork, no nothing. I just said to the guy, listen, I need to speak to somebody about changing my intake. And the little trippy said, hold on. And he disappeared upstairs, came back down, took me back upstairs, and sitting at a desk behind the desk was a captain from the Navy. Kind of like, why? What's the story? I said, no, I want to go to the Navy because I live in Fishhook. Oh, okay. But it's very difficult to get into the Navy, etc., because everybody wants to go and so on. So I said, but again, just down the road, live there. Okay, cool, you can go. Seriously, it was almost like that. It really was great. I did my national service. I completed my studies, analytical chemistry. I worked in the Navy laboratories for quite some time. I then left there, went obviously my national service, went to an electronics company as works chemist, continued shooting. We'd had our camps, etc. And then I discovered that if I spoke to my OC very nicely and he agreed, I only needed to attend shoots one Saturday a month, and that was considered my camps for however long I was there. So I went up the Navy range one Saturday a month and had great fun with ammo in those days, guys. Guys, we used to be given as much ammo as we wanted. My wife, in the meantime, started a little company. I continued doing other things, eventually got into that company. And as things progressed, my sport shooting took over. Developed from handgun into 3-gun and so on. At the same time, I was chairman of False Bay Sports Shooting Club. In those days, it used to be known as False Bay Gun Club. We built it up from basically a hole in the wall. Everything that you see there has been built by members, member contributions, etc. Our clubhouse, our water pipes coming in, electricity, every single thing we did ourselves. No assistance from council except for go ahead and do it, but we're not officially allowing you to do it, just do it. One of those scenarios.
And it's probably
Beg pardon?
in my subjective opinion, probably the most beautiful shooting range in the country. And there are other people who are welcome to disagree with me, but if you can beat the view and the ambience, yeah, I'll buy you more than a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah. So it developed and developed. We got, as I say, we got a clubhouse, and then at the same time, I ended up becoming a firearms instructor, purely out of my experience of sport shooting. Nothing beyond that. Was awarded eventually a counselor status through ITA, and then managed to get myself a position on the PFTC board for the Western Cape. And that's kind of it. The company, False Bay Firearm Training Academy, also morphed over time. We operate from the club itself. We're very lucky in that we managed to get secure ourselves a position there. And it's been growing since then. The club and the academy is open 7 days of the week. On a Sunday from 9:30 until 12:30, where we physically close at 1 o'clock. But other than that, every other day of the week, it's 9:30 till 4:30, where we physically close at 5. And that's kind of where we are. And then obviously we run all these different courses, etc. So that's kind of me in hopefully a nutshell.
Well, that's a nice and extensive nutshell, at least, and I think that brings into perspective exactly what the next thing I want to talk about, which is the training side to it and the Firearm Training Academy. Now, apart from people coming to FBFTA for their credit-bearing basic firearm training, so that's the legal, the handgun, shotgun, manual rifle, semi-auto rifle, combos, all that sort of stuff. You also do business purposes.
Yep.
You do regulation 21s. You do the tactical unit standards, which we'll talk about a bit later in the live stream, because I want you to unpack a bit more about that. And then obviously there's also the non-credit bearing stuff that the academy is also involved with, including night shoots, this sort of thing. And if you had to say what and the experience shoots as well. So there are people who come there to actually rent guns and have fun under the supervision of instructors and relevant qualified personnel, including tourists. Have you seen any interesting demographic shifts over the past few years pertaining to the type of citizen or person who seeks to get training for whatever reason?
Not really. Look, the vast majority of the people are males, pale males. Yes, things are changing slightly in that we are getting females coming, and our demographics are starting to broaden, which is quite nice. After our little debacle in KZN and Gauteng 3 months ago, we had quite a nice pickup of ladies. But when I say a pickup of ladies, it's a small growth in comparison to men. And that's about it. There's no great shakes there. We would love to have more ladies, ladies with firearms and licensed firearm ladies. It's difficult. And the way I see it is that a lot of the ladies get taught by their husbands. Sometimes they're taught very badly. And they shy away from a firearm because she's been given this 38 special that is a millimeter long barrel with the maximum power that he can load in that darn thing, and it kicks the gajibis out of her hand. And she's frightened.
And with a terrible trigger pull to add to that mix.
Correct. So all of that gives her a bad experience, as in the lady a bad experience. When they come to the club and it's kind of like, oh, we're shooting a pistol. How different is it to shoot it? Well, come and try it. Okay. Let's get, you fay with a pistol. There's less recoil on that, etc., etc. And then they start saying, great, now we're going to start enjoying it. And that's where we go from there.
I was about to say,
Sorry, go.
No, carry on.
Probably now about 8 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, we had two ladies appear the one day watching us, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a bit odd. And I went and spoke to them, and it turned out that both of them have never fired firearms, and they're not anti-firearm, but they don't want firearms. Discussing with them, giving the opportunity to fire the firearms and so on, within probably about 6 months, one had bought their own she had bought her own firearm. Was shooting quite regularly and then dropped out. There were various other reasons that she's dropped out and so on. But hopefully she's still training every now and again. I don't see her at our range, but she might be at some other range. So you do get those cases coming through as well, but those are really few and far between.
Yeah, no, I do. Similar experience. I think far fewer than at False Bay, for the simple reason is you guys do have a facility that is almost in its sense its own attraction and an event. And I would encourage people watching this, if you haven't gone through to False Bay Sports Shooting Club and checked out the academy as well, that's on premises there, do yourself the favor and go and find them. They are not hidden away. They're in Glencairn, next to Fishhook. And the issue of encouraging women to not only become proficient and competent gun owners, but also participate in sport shooting activities is also something that's very close to you personally, Keith, in the sense that your daughter is a very successful sport shooter. I don't recall if she is still very active. I know she's got a very demanding career at the moment, but she's been involved in quite a few of these initiatives to try and encourage more women to become armed. And I think that did pay some dividends, and there's hopefully some more of that coming as well.
Yeah, look, my daughter Alexis has been shooting since, I don't know, probably about 12 or somewhere thereabout. I can't recall the exact dates and so on, but she shot IPS. She's always been shooting IPSC. Open class. She's always liked open class. In those days, her main trainer was one of our very old club members, Rodney Haycock. Those of you out there in the Western Cape, almost certainly, and especially if you're in the Western Province and Boerland, you will know Rodney. And Rodney spent a lot of time with Alexis and trained Alexis. Then there were other guys or other instructors that came in that took her to the next level. But for Alexis, Rodney was the person because he was at the club. He spent the time with her. She used his firearm on a regular basis. We would go to competitions and drag Rodney along because we needed his firearm. She eventually got she got Boerland colors relatively quickly. She's had Boerland colors for I don't know how many years in a row. Open class. She's been shooting African area champs, I think, since 2015. I think that was the first one that she attended. She didn't do terribly well there. It doesn't matter. She started. And then soon thereafter, she was winning African area champs. So basically South African and Africa open class ladies champ. And then went to one world shoot in Greece, which was interesting.
I was about to say that must have been interesting.
Yeah, well, it was an utter disaster for her because her gun gave problems. So sort of took this thing to the local gunsmith who was operating out of a van and said to him, "Can you fix this?" And he looked at us and said, "Almost, but in Greek, this heap of shit." Then serious. Yeah, because that's all we could get at that stage. Even in those days, licensing has always been a problem. Okay. So we got the whole thing up and running and off we went again. And we limped along and she had the experience of it. She didn't come first. She didn't come second. She didn't come 10th. She didn't come 20th, but she came somewhere. Then the following world shoot, she was full-time studies, then went to, where did we go? We went to France to that world shoot. Also with the South African Open Standard team, but by then she's got national colors. She did very well there. She came 10th overall. And by doing that, brought up the South African Open ladies team to bronze. So they came 3rd overall. So that was quite a good feat. And yeah, that's it. She's also one of our instructors, but as you say, she's very busy with her other career. So she can't spend the time that she used to spend with us. Yeah.
Well, that's
she doesn't train as much either, which is kind of like, but you know what? Again, it's life. Let's move on. Let's see how things go. Yeah.
Well,
Shotgun, semi-auto rifles, manually operated rifles, she can do all of that. No problem at all. Yeah.
And that's the important part of it, is the fact that you know, and this is a complaint that someone brought up with me today, and it was a woman who said that it's something that she'd like to get involved in changing, is that a lot of media out there for the purposes of public consumption pertaining civilian firearm ownership and, you know, the pros and cons of certain things and all that, is that it's very America-centric or US-centric. And what she meant by that is that in many cases, the women who were giving their opinions on in these information pieces or on these videos were very sort of overly masculine and didn't represent what would be considered the normal demographic of what a real female gun owner looks like, who is frankly just a normal woman with a gun that's got the mindset, the training, and the equipment. And someone like Alexis, for example, and there are fortunately a growing collection of women that are subscribing, or rather representing that, are living examples of the fact that this is possible. It is possible for a woman to master shooting a handgun to a high degree of accuracy and proficiency. The same with shotguns, the same with rifles, the same with semi-auto rifles. All of these things are not just completely within the realm of possibility, but they could, oh my goodness, even be fun things, fulfilling engagements in their own right. And I do believe that the club and the academy also you've had these ladies events and ladies days quite a few times, if I recall correctly.
Yep. Well, one of the things right now is on IPSC is we're slowly getting together a ladies production team. We've got some new ladies that are coming through, and they looking at working together to create their own production, IPSC production team through Western Province. That's great. I mean, that's what we want. There's not many clubs out there that can say that they can field a ladies team. This is the unfortunate thing. And we're trying to promote it all the way. And I think Alexis's input into our club, our academy, and so on, and the sport has been pretty good. There's a lot of other ladies out there that do shoot. But again, it chops and changes. She's going to be moving on one of these days. I don't know whether she's going to continue shooting. And there might be some other lady that's going to take over. Let's hope that there is. And then it becomes a new person for the ladies to follow.
Well, that's the thing. It's a constant growth path. And ultimately, you want to create an institution and not just have individuals only. And that's also part of where our training discussion comes in, is that, and I think we've seen it on instructor shoots, grading shoots. We've seen it on other courses. A lot of people going beyond the normal proficiency training, they suffer equipment failures. They lack confidence in using their equipment. They only really learn what they're capable of and where their shortcomings are and where their equipment shortcomings are once they come and test these things on a training course. Your experience with upskilling people and why it's important for the average gun owner to not just stop training, why it's important to participate in something, whether they train regularly or whether they participate on a dedicated or semi-dedicated level in some sort of sports shooting discipline of their choosing. You're a big fan of either of those things, and maybe just give me your opinion on why those things are important.
My biggest bugbear, and I think it's the same as yours, and I think I've discussed this once or twice, where we have people that come in and do the proficiency training. They get their competency. They come and buy a firearm from us. They get their license. They come through. They grab the firearm. They get a couple of 100 rounds of ammo, and we never see them again. My analogy to that is the likes of your competency certificate. In reality, is not even the equivalent of a learner's driver's license. That's how poor it is. Now, what I mean by poor is that's how little practical component there is in this. I'm one of those people that promote and advocate for more training because you can only upskill yourself. So getting yourself your firearm, buying some ammo, buying 50 rounds of hollow point ammo because this is your self-defense firearm, go flying out of the gun shop with your 50 rounds, load up your mag, insert the mag, rack around, stick it into your pants. What's the first thing that's going to happen? Let's not go down that road. Thank heavens, I don't know whether that has happened yet. But we've got to try and get the people to understand that they've only got a piece of equipment. Beyond that piece of equipment, they know nothing. And guys, please don't take me the wrong way. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it is a major, major problem. If I gave you if you don't watch what happens on TV, okay, let's go for like a DIY show. I gave you a drill and I said, I want you to drill a hole in a piece of wood, and you haven't seen a DIY show, but I've given you just the basics. What are you going to do? You're probably going to stuff up something. Okay. I've now given you a firearm. That little squeeze, click, bang, and that round, that 9mm round has traveled how many meters? And a lot of people think 300 odd meters, give or take, in a second. How long are 2 rugby fields put end to end, or 2 soccer fields put end to end? 2 times 150 meters. So it's traveled 2 rugby fields or 2 soccer fields that click bang. So Granny, who is sitting down the road there, having a cup of coffee when the gangs are out doing their thing, or the kid who's outside playing, and there's this bang that goes off, that is the problem. And people don't understand it, that they've got this, and if somebody attacks me at home, I'm going to shoot them. Why? Okay? Not only that, can you account for where that bullet's going to land? That's where you need your training. And training at the range, even if it is an A4 piece of paper with a couple of circles on it, at the range, 50 rounds every 3 or 4 months. It doesn't have to be every month. Every 3 or 4 months, it's going to build your confidence. It's going to build your skill set. It's going to make you feel better. Once you're at that level, you'll probably start coming to us and saying, I want to get into sports training. Or can you show me how to get the next level? And that's where we come in with IPSC, IDPA, or SADPA here in South Africa, or now at our club as MPDS. Those types of sports come into play. And they're all worth it at the end of the day, guys. Did I cover your answer? I mean, did I?
That actually covered it very well, in the sense that there's an initiating process to this where you get your competency, but then there's a consistent skills development and skills maintenance process, and that is on the onus of the guy that owns the gun. Like, there is no, I mean, I hear what Abdul is saying, but there is no mandatory training, really. I suppose that is kind of an unintended consequence of dedicated sports status, is it forces people to a minimum level of participation in order to have that privilege of owning unlimited guns. But at the same time, that is a segment of society that, in theory, should be the most accurate and the safest and the most proficient, because their exposure to shooting and handling in a formal environment is at the highest level, because they are probably participating in something on an almost monthly basis.
Yeah. Well, this is exactly it. We refer to it as trigger time. Yeah. If you're a racing car driver, you've got to practice on a regular basis. If you're doing tennis and you're going into provincial colors for tennis, how often are you practicing? You're practicing every day. So when you're going to do sports shooting, you should be practicing on a regular basis. When Alexis, and I'm referring to her because she's not there all the time, but when Alexis comes up towards nationals and things like that, she's shooting a couple of 100 rounds a day during the week. She comes up, we spend an hour and a half, and it's just trigger time, that movement, sight picture, squeeze, etc. and it's constant. The ladies, there was, I think, a couple of years ago, I can't remember exactly who it was, one of the lady clay target shooters. She fired over 5,000 rounds a month. A month. And that's big money. Okay. But that's how much and how dedicated she was to be at her level. So this is what you need to do. And again, I refer to the likes of a racing car driver, or take, for instance, yachting. We see the guys yachting out at our from our range out there doing their thing. Those guys that get the skills to become first, second, and third in the races, they practice. Crappy weather, they're practicing. Unfortunately, with firearms, people think it's a piece of equipment that you can put away somewhere, and when you need it, it'll miraculously appear in your hand, like in the movies, and it'll solve all your problems. Corner, it ain't going to happen like that.
Yep. And that is part of the problem, is it's almost seen as a magic talisman that'll just imbue you with this ability. And there's good news and bad news on that front, though. The bad news is, I'm going to quote Dave Spalding, is he said that exactly what you used as an analogy is that a championship level quarterback probably practices their sport on a daily basis. They might take one day of the week off, and they might still be throwing a ball around on that day just to keep in practice. It's the same with the championship level sport shooters. Now, if you're going to carry a gun for defensive purposes, surely your level of dedication to saving your own life with that gun should be at the same level as someone just, and this is not meant in a disparaging way, but merely using the gun to play a formal type of gun game with it, which the stakes are a bit lower. If you lose the match, you don't die. That said, you probably don't need to do 5,000 rounds a month in order to get to a really high level, because there are so many dry fire drills. There's a lot you can do in the comfort of your own home in order to really upskill yourself, but it requires dedication and time and effort, which may be part of the problem.
Can I just put a disclaimer in there?
Yeah.
Dry fire drills, etc., that you can do at home. People, listen to me. In your garage, with the dog not there or the kids not there, and no window open that you're busy pointing your firearm out of, in your bedroom, and your wife's not in your bed, and the kids aren't playing in there either. I'm dead serious, okay? That's the type. And also, if you've got kids, without the kids being around when you're doing the dry fire and so on, especially if they're young, they look at this and they think that they can start playing around. It's just, as I say, a disclaimer. We've seen and we've heard of TVs being shot, doorknobs being shot, light switches being shot, mirrors being shot, okay? And there's a couple of stories about hotel rooms as well at competitions, but let's keep quiet about those. So it's very simple, guys. This type of thing can happen, and that click bang, you ain't stopping nothing. And dry fire is really the way to go about it, but safety, safety, safety. I can't stress that enough. Sorry, Gideon.
No, that's absolutely spot on, in the sense of separate your ammunition from your dry fire regime, and have a set regime where you have a set series of actions you go through, or almost a ritual, if you want to call it that, in order that you're now in dry fire practice mode mentally, and that once you exit that mental state and you're live again, that if you want to dry fire again, you go through the whole process again, and that you never ever assume that you are done. So that it does require you putting aside time and actually making a bit of an event out of it in order to stay safe. Otherwise, that's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to shoot the Lego man off the top of the computer monitor and all sorts of fun things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And Jason says, practice makes permanent, not perfect. If you're practicing the wrong thing, you make that permanent. Dry fire is indeed a solution to training, but it needs to be the right stuff. Well, that's also part of the thing. And don't shoot the garden's furniture. Thanks, Jason.
100% correct. And this is the other thing, is that come to one of the instructors, but an instructor who is enthusiastic enough to give you information. Yes, there will be some cost associated with it. And I'm not talking only about us. I'm talking about other guys up in Joburg and Durban and PE and wherever. Go to one of the guys there. Get the basics. Get them to assist you. Go home, dry fire practice, etc., and come back in a week's time. Let's have a look what has happened. There are so many online dry fire exercises and so on that you can do. The problem is unless you're videoing yourself and comparing it to what is actually happening on their tutorials, you won't know. So rather work with somebody who can give you some guidance. And I'm not the world's best, by the way. I'm far
Well,
from it.
I was about to say, do you have any dry fire routines that you could recommend people start off with?
It's very simple stuff. The likes of, the obvious, which is unload your firearm, make sure it's clear ammunition, make sure there's no live ammunition. Take that ammunition and put it in a cupboard or lock it away in the safe or put it somewhere out of the room where you're training. If you're in your garage, take it away, put it somewhere else so that you cannot get it mixed up. Okay. Buy yourself some dry fire training rounds or dummy rounds. Rather buy them than make them. I've made that mistake once and I have a hole in a desk because of that. Not through the desk, but there was a primer in there and it happens. And I put my hand up to that because that is what does happen, guys. It's simple. So load, rack, holster, sit and watch the TV. And when a new advert comes on or something like that, draw, point at the TV, ease the trigger, okay, or squeeze the trigger or massage the trigger, or whatever you want to call it, at the TV or at that logo that's on the TV, right? Reset, holster. Do the exact same a couple of times. That's all that you have to do. If you're in an area where there's a busy road or something like that, and you're in your garage, just stand, a vehicle goes past, draw, click at a spot on your wall in your garage. Little things like that. If you want to see that you're looking at the sights correctly, look at yourself in a mirror. Draw, come up onto your target. Can I see myself in the mirror? Yes. But are my sights lined up to that person in the mirror, being myself, that is? Yes. Good to go. Okay. And there's no speed. There's no necessity for speed. Speed will come with time. Okay. We're all speed freaks. Yeah. But make sure that you know what you're doing before you become a speed freak. It's the exact same as, so going back to the car analogy, and it's so easy with the car analogy. Why? Because so many of us are drivers. So we end up getting our driver's license, and my folks buy me a Fuller. Those of you who don't know what that is, that's a VW Beetle. One of the worst flipping cars, in my opinion, on the road because they just hop all over the place. So you buy one.
The old one, by the way, guys, not the new fancy one.
Yeah, one of the old ones. So your parents buy you that because that's what they can afford. And as a student, that's a jewel. Okay. And off you go. 6 months later, you suddenly end up winning the lotto and you go and buy yourself a Ferrari. No, not a Ferrari, a Porsche 911. Cool. Why? That's basically a VW, souped up VW. Put it on the road and you write it off the first time round. Why? Because you don't know what you're doing. And that's the exact same as dry fire, slowly pick up speed as you go along. Same concept.
Oh, that's also the thing. The faster you go, if your fundamental technique and skill set isn't solid, you're very quickly going to start learning and cementing bad habits or inefficient movement, or all sorts of instabilities. And you're going to ingrain that as part of your entire way of handling the gun and how you manipulate it and how you shoot it, which is something you really want to avoid, because untraining bad habits is far more difficult than just taking the time to acquire good ones from the start. Ask me, because I have a ton of bad habits and I still haven't gotten rid of half of the bloody things, as you have probably seen in practice, Keith. So is that
no comment?
No comment.
No. But again, sport shooting helps. So the likes of IPSC, IDPA, SADPA, or even the MPDS and so on, that helps. Because when you start off, try and end up in a detail, or tell the range master or whoever's organizing the event, I'm a newbie, I've shot, I'm safe, etc., etc. Can I go with one of the guys that are a little bit more experienced, and go and speak to them and say, hey, listen, I need some practice, or I need some training. How do we shoot this stage? What am I going to do? And let that person work with you for the first 2 or 3 events. They'll tell you the likes of your movements might be wrong, your grip on your firearm might be wrong, yeah, your flinching is terrible, etc. And they can start working with you, but you've got to start somewhere. And the sport shooting, and I keep coming back to this, is the easiest and the best way to do it. IPSC at our club, every Thursday afternoon, we have a club shoot. And the club shoots are attended from anything from 15 to 30 people. It's amazing how many people don't work on Thursday afternoons.
Someone in the comment section is going to say something about Cape Town. I know it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's simple. We've got a lot of guys that work from home, especially now with the whole COVID. You know what my comment on that is with COVID, and guys that work for themselves and can jippo a little bit of extra time. And they come through. We normally start at 1 o'clock. I always say to guys, if you haven't registered properly, be there by 12:30, so that we can set you up, register you in, etc. Usually about 100 rounds. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Those people from Cape Town. So the rationale behind that is twofold: to build the sport, trigger time, and also as a conduit into the other sports. So some people might come and say, oh, they're doing the IPSC, but that's not really their game because it's not tactical enough. So they're wanting to do the SADPA, IDPA, etc. Let me assure you, and this is what I keep saying to people, I might be standing in the middle of that doorway in the middle of the range, blasting away downrange. Let a bang come towards me. I'm going to be making myself that small and hide in the corner of my room. So when it comes to tactical, you learn very quickly that you ain't going to be standing in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Well,
so, sorry?
No, I said that's the thing. IPSC was my gateway drug into shooting sports as well, in the sense that that's what you start with, and then you learn about the other sports. And I would love to actually go back to it, just for the heck of it.
Yeah,
it's I do miss shooting it.
Yeah. So again, and getting back to this whole lot, practice. We do live fire practice on a Thursday, 100 rounds. Yeah, and it's good fun. And yeah, yes, the first time you come through there, you're going to feel nervous. We've got a whole bunch of new guys that have been joining us, and a couple of ladies that have been joining us, and that's how we are growing slowly but surely.
Exactly. Well, right. You said, tactical. So that brings us to the important part of the discussion, and it's the upcoming Tactical Unit Standards course at the club and at the academy in December. And maybe I'm just going to let you talk about it, because I know what it's about. But what exactly is it about? What are Tactical Unit Standards? Who would want to do them, and why are they quite cool to have, or important to have, rather?
Look, there's cool to have and good to have, or needed.
Good to have.
Yeah. Your security personnel, SAPs, those types of people would be wanting it as a need to have. It's a unit standard, so there's a minimum requirement that you've got to meet, etc. And then once you've met that, you're good to go. There's a lot of additional training over and above those unit standards. Those unit standards are the basic building blocks. So in order to do the tactical training, you've got to do your basic unit standards. You've got to do your business purposes unit standards. Okay. I see. Okay. So many Saturdays, etc. No, that's good. The thing is that there's so many different unit standards out there. The tactical unit standards can be for, as I say, the security companies and the police and so on. And then there's also your farm watchers, etc. We are not paramilitary. We do not train paramilitary. Okay. We also have individuals who would like to learn the basics for their own self-preservation at home, or if they're out in a rural area, or if they're driving a car at night. The tactical unit standards don't cover a lot of those scenarios. We run those things as top-ups or additional unit, not unit standards, additional training. We do a fair amount of night training, night shoot training. When are you the most vulnerable? At night. People tend to not train enough for night. Okay. When it comes to the unit standard training, tactical unit standard training, we run 2 night events. Unfortunately, coming up now, November, December time period, especially here in Cape Town, it gets dark a lot later. Guess what? You're just going to go home a little bit later. We're on level 1 now, and hopefully we'll stay that way. But moving forward, well, from previous experiences, we used to wrap at about 10:30 at night. We might now end up having to wrap at 11:30 at night, so that we get more time to be able to do the night shoot. So there's a whole lot of stuff. Torch techniques, instinctive shooting, moving and shooting, how to illuminate your target, how to use a vehicle for cover at night. Forget about during the day, at night. A lot of that stuff is not covered correctly in the unit standards, but we do it as an add-on, so that we feel a lot. We feel we're adding better value to the unit standards. The unit standards cover handgun, shotgun, and self-loading rifle, as well as tactical range officer. Once you have those unit standards and you're an instructor, you in turn can offer those training courses. The problem is that we used to find guys did the training courses and then almost immediately went and started offering these courses to Joe Public. PFTC have now put a limit on that, in that you've got to have RPL, recognition of prior learning, i.e. you were in SAPs doing certain divisions of SAPs, or you were with a Metro Reaction Squad, or that type of thing, or FBFTA, their response units and so on. Then you can get into training immediately. Other than that, you've got to have a number of years of tactical practice and training, which you can only get at club levels. Or if you're going and join your neighborhood watch and move up the ranks into the security companies, and you volunteer on a part-time basis to some of the security companies. That's very difficult to get into, by the way. And that's where our unit standards, the tactical unit standards, are leading to. Hopefully that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And just to maybe add additional color to it, to people who may be interested, the previous course was 6 or 7 students. It's not necessarily a team-based thing where you're training a 6-person or 5-person tactical team. In many cases, it's individuals who are attending in their individual capacity. And they are taught, well, the 2 night shoots components are possibly some of the most important things, but it's also building penetration, navigating through space safely. There's some vehicle-based stuff. It covers, the curriculum is broad. It's a very busy 10 days, and there is a lot of shooting involved in it as well. But it's not just about the shooting. There's a standard of accuracy that needs to be achieved, but there's lots of other things that goes into it. And in my opinion, it's most certainly beneficial for people who work in that industry. And I think you are definitely getting your money's worth for it. But in the one in December, there's also an additional set of plug and press and some medical stuff that's thrown in as part of the deal.
We're going to be adding that. We're going to be using Mark from MDW, Mark Human. I think his reputation is out there, and I don't think it's easy to tarnish his reputation. He's been around a long time. He's run some very good courses. To the extent, I mean, the last course, you and Giovanni were the main instructors on that while I was assessing you guys, etc. So in order to get to the level, you've got to start somewhere, and that's exactly what was happening. But even then, we still call on specialists to come and offer small segments of the unit standards where we feel that it's better, or they've got more experience than we have. Share the workload. Get those experts on board Get them to come and offer their services. Yes, there's some financial contribution towards them. Some of the guys say, no, they're cool. They'd rather just come and get a trigger time and also start building up more of a portfolio for their tactical range officers course. And these are guys that are in the security industry, guys that are in SAPs and so on. They come and they offer their services.
And that's the thing. So it's very much I'm not going to call it a mixed bag, but it's a very full bouquet of experiences. It's not just, it's certainly much more than is just in the manuals. So if anyone who's watching is interested or would like to recommend this, where can they get more information, Keith? Like they can contact you directly, and I did put details in the description of this video on YouTube as to where they can get hold of FBF, False Bay Firearm Training Academy, the website and so on. But perhaps I should also just put your email in here as well, which is Keith at...
The easiest one is Keith at FBSST. So Foxtrot, Bravo, Sierra Tango.co.za.
Oh, I'm just going to I'll flash that up on the screen. There you go.
Yep, there we go.
FBSST.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, again, I can give you, I can help you out on that, or I'll probably pass you over to one of our guys to be able to send you just the standard info, and we can talk about it and move on from there. But as in, if you're interested in coming to join us, it's a course that's worth doing. If you're a mama and papa type, home alone type thing or you're doing a lot of traveling, it's something worth doing. Again, it's something you will learn, or there will always be something that you will learn. If you have a farm and you go and spend the weekends on the farm and the rest of the time in the city, you need that type of experience. You need that type of understanding on how to approach things, etc. Let me assure you, if this new firearms control bill that they are talking about comes in, you ain't going to have any more armed security guards out there. Who is going to end up looking after your house? Forget about firearms. So you've got to learn how to approach things, how to enter your house, how to look around your house without a firearm, because the rest of your family's in there and there's potentially a perpetrator in there as well. And that's the type of thing on learning how to access your house. Sounds simple? Very complicated. Yeah. How are you going to enter?
It certainly is, and that's part and parcel, guys. This is not a course that's purely for reaction officers, response personnel, SWAT teams, or security people or law enforcement. It is something that is applicable to you as an ordinary citizen. We've got a couple of minutes. Any questions for myself or Keith? Roll them in now. Before we retire for the evening and actually go have a glass of wine or something. I hope you've had dinner yet, Keith. I haven't.
No, I was lucky. I have a cup of coffee, but it's getting a bit cold.
Oh, bro, no, it's every time for a top-up. Just to confirm, Mr. Julius, unit standard or standalone training, this is definitely unit standards. They do require business purposes. There are a few caveats to being allowed to attend this.
Yeah.
So
it is units. The tactical units, the tactical training that we are doing in end of November, beginning of December is the correct. It's unit standard training. It's not standalone. We do standalone modules, and I think Gideon, you offering one very soon, aren't you? With one of the nights.
Yeah, 16 October. Yeah, it's the low light and night shooting course, Torch Techniques. It's myself and Giovanni, 16 October at False Bay Sports Shooting Club, under the banner of the Academy from 5:30 until we're aiming to finish about 10 o'clock. So if you want in on that, you can get a hold of me at via the usual channels, and I'll tell you about it.
but there again, that's a very good stepping stone to all of these others, because I reiterate, nighttime is your biggest problem. We're not cats. We can't see what's happening out there. You got a torch. You're going to either illuminate yourself, blind yourself because you end up looking in the torch, or you're going to have a weapons mounted torch. Lovely. My most favorite thing whenever we do a night shoot, these guys appear with these weapon mounted torches. Brilliant. You come over my wall to see what's happening over my wall in my house, and you point that torch at me, I'm going to have you, because your firearm is being pointed at me. Always carry a firearm, a secondary torch for illuminating, and then you'll have your weapon-mounted torch. Little things like that, guys. People don't think about it.
Yeah, it's a big reason why having a handheld torch that you can manipulate freely from your gun is a must-have. And just to answer Jason, yes, it's private handle use and business purpose handle use. You need those unit standards before they're prerequisite before you can do the tactical unit standards. Abdul, that would be a whole nother discussion. So it's not my own discipline per se. It's under the auspices of the South African Tactical Shooting Association, SATSA. I will actually do a separate stream on that, and I will put it for this week at some point, and then please tune in and I can talk all about that, and I won't be robbing Keith's time, but that'll be a fun chat. Andrew says, I'm attending this. It's my first step in this direction. Are you joining us for the tactical course, or are you coming to the night shoot, sir? Because either way, you're more than welcome, and the more the merrier. We have gotten a few bookings on that tactical course already, Keith. I think 1 or 2.
No, I think there's more than that. Hopefully there are more than that, because to run those types of courses for too few people is just too, you don't get enough experience, because you've got to have, the more people, the more experience you have, you're feeding off of each other.
Exactly.
And that's what works.
Yeah. Between 6 and 10 is a really good number. If we can get more than that, it would be amazing, and then you can actually start breaking the guys up into teams.
Yeah.
So the lesson is bring your friends.
Yeah. Remember last year you did that, what was it? Tactical 9/11 course.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, that was a very good course.
That was an exceptional course.
Yeah. And you learned a heck of a lot on that. And there were a lot of newbies on there. And at the end of the day, everybody fed off of everybody else and learned something. Yeah.
And we also want to, I think part of the discussion was to also start bringing some force and force stuff into it as equipment and budget and time allows, because that would really add another element of realism into it. The unfortunate thing with that is airsoft tends to be a bit fragile, and they do tend to break. And I think, as Giovanni learned, the paintball breaks skin. So the paintball gun is not always the best training tool.
Yeah, but that was because we had fully charged the thing and we ran it on maximum pressure, didn't we? And we had him right standing in front of us. Yeah,
that was the thing. And we were told not to run it at maximum pressure. We didn't listen. But you know what?
Did your eyes suffer? No. No, exactly. Did we feel anything? Nah. Did we give a toss? Nah. Shame, Giovanni.
But on that bombshell, guys, you know exactly. He's at least laughing about. You know where to find Keith. You know where to find me. There's lots of training coming up over the next few months and weeks. And apart from the tactical unit standards, as we bring it to a close, Keith, what else is coming up at the range and at the academy over the next few weeks that people might be interested in?
We're going to be doing, with Mark and I are going to be doing a couple of courses. Strangely enough, we were discussing it today, but we didn't finalize it. So keep an eye on our Facebook page, the Academy's Facebook page. There is going to be a plug and press as well, a standalone plug and press. There's also, what was the other one? I think Mark is going to be running pretty soon a shotgun course. So manipulation of a pump action shotgun and so on. That's also something worth doing. Yeah, here, the Academy, Mark, Gideon, we all work together for the better of the industry, and we all interact with each other, and we all promote each other's product, because it's going to benefit all of us in the long run.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I've attended Mark's shotgun course a year or two ago. It was a very, very good course. It gives you a huge amount of confidence with your shotgun, but bring lots of Vaseline, guys, because your hands and other parts of your body are going to hurt by the end of it. And this is the other thing. We don't tend to run soft courses. We run courses with lots of shooting, lots of manipulation, and sometimes there's a little bit of bleeding, but you go home feeling very good about what you've learned. And I think that's the the important thing is that there is a skill transfer, and we're not sadists. We don't go out of our way to hurt our students. That's the thing.
No, in all honesty, that type of thing is unnecessary at the level that we're working at. If you were an anti-poaching unit or something like that, and you have your own standard operating procedures within your organization, that's your endeavor. But that's not for us to do. Our tactical unit standards our tactical courses are unit standard based, and once you have that, you can then go into anti-piracy. You can get jobs overseas in various places, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, there's jobs available here in the country. And it's quite interesting, the number of inquiries we're getting, well, not myself, but guys that have been on courses are getting for protection here in South Africa. It seems to be a bit of a growth area. I don't know whether you've noticed that, Gideon.
Definitely, and it's also something that I think, and this is maybe a little bit with, there we go, Veli Mashia says, I can confirm that shooting with Keith is hella fun and confidence building. So you're not like a lot of the other people who are terrified to come do grading shoots with them. But there's definitely, I think it's cool that we're a good couple of people at affiliated with the academy, different skill sets, different backgrounds. I mean, Giovanni's got a very, very interesting background with his time in the anti-gang unit and elsewhere, and his contract work that he did in Africa. So it's a diverse set of personalities, and we all trying to get it to a very high standard where if you can do tactical unit standards with the False Bay logo on your certificate, that ends up meaning something for you out there if you seek employment or other opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that we like to do is be able to teach people on different weapon platforms and the different types of firearms. So we've got a reasonable range of firearms that the guys get trained on. It doesn't mean to say that you're going to be shooting an R1 all day, every day, or an AK or anything like that. It's just a platform. So if you go out into the real world, you're on a ship or something like that, you end up going into a port, and by default, you end up being given FALs or something like that, a G3. You've got an understanding of what's going on with it. That's kind of what we're trying to do.
Exactly. So if you're interested, and I hope you are after watching this, and if you're not interested, I hope you know someone who is, please get them in touch with either Keith or with me so I can pass you on to Keith or the relevant administrative person. And let's get people trained. Let's get you involved in more sports. I think we should have more of these discussions, specifically about the sport shooting, because I see a lot of people are interested in getting into that. When you are next available, Keith, we'll actually chat about that offline. But thank you for making time in the middle of the week at 8 p.m. to come talk to us on the stream. I think it was very informative.
No. Well, thanks for inviting me, and to all those who have listened and partaken, thank you very much as well. Again, word of mouth, let's spread it. Safety,
Excellent.
Safety.
And training. And on that bombshell, Keith and listeners and watchers, thank you for being here. I will see you again soon. Keep an eye on the channel where I'll just schedule future broadcasts. And Mr. Judas would like to have you back. Fantastic. Have a great evening. Stay safe.